Sure. How's everybody doing tonight? All right, we're gonna get started. This is the Ozobot video I did last week. I just want to show it to you. Spent about an hour videotaping it. And so when it gets to the spot right there, the color, 3 colors, it'll speed up. And those 3 dots, actually, those 3 color changes, tell the robot to go to supersonic speed. And at the end, where it goes to the blue and red, over here, is where it has to go a turnaround. But we'll be, we got a few seats left if you want to come to this. It's this Saturday, and you can take home one of these Ozobots with a binder of lessons. And students do get $20 off the ticket price. So I think I'm making about $1.50 a piece when it comes to the robots, and I'm actually spending money because I did have to pay for the binders. So anyway, but it's a lot of fun. You'd enjoy it. And so if you know anybody that's into robots or coding, it's $20 off for students. So it's instead of 85, it's 65. And then general folks can come in if they're not a student and they're not a teacher for 20% off, which I think is like 67 or something like that. So it's well worth it. The other event I want to make mention is the Hour Code event. This is downtown Rockford in the RR Star building. It's going to be February 1st, which is a Wednesday. I don't teach that night, so we'll be doing the first Wednesday of every month in the RR Star building at our RBC downtown location, an hour of code. This one's totally free, and you basically do an hour of drag and drop coding and make apps. So you guys are in development already, so it'll be probably kind of cool. And the drag and drop coding we use actually in the back end of it is JavaScript. So it's right down your alley. So And by the way, the coding for Ozobot is also JavaScript as well. The back end of that, this is JavaScript, because Ozobot can run on lines of color or it can run on code. The code is basically a screen. I'll show you over here. Ozo code. You get Ozo codes, Ozo Blockly, and that's what it looks like. So drag it, you can literally run it on an iPad app or a regular computer with a Chrome web browser, and you drag and drop. Like in this one here, it's wait 2 seconds, do a rainbow light, repeat 3 times, move forward 5 steps at fast, set the light color of the robot to blue, rotate it slowly. If the surface is red, do a zigzag. And so the way it works is once the code is put into that app, the Ozobot, it doesn't show this picture here, the Ozobot sits right here on the monitor, whether it be an iPad or a laptop, desktop, whatever, and you tell it to load code, and light comes out from the screen into the bottom of this Ozobot robot, and you double tap this button and it runs whatever code it was you just pushed to it. So pretty ingenious. It's gotten a lot of awards, and it's a way to get people involved in coding, but also have a fun little robot to take home. So we have whole families come in December, so it's not just for college age students. We have 6 years old, 86 years old last time. So it's a lot of fun. If you have any questions, or if you don't have the money to go and you want to go, let me know. I'll make sure you get one, because I'd really like everybody to go that is really interested in coding robotics, which is kind of where coding's going anyway, I think, in the future, one way or the other. You know, you probably heard a lot of home automation with lights and drapes and what is it, temperature, everything, right, is being automated. So yeah, in some form or fashion, more than likely somewhere down the road, you're going to be dabbling in some type of automation, with whether it be robotics or something. So it's a good starter point. And one of the exciting things too for me is I got a call from Barnes & Noble corporate last week. They want me to lead the March event. They have a mini maker fair. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those at Barnes & Noble, but it's where they have a whole bunch of like robots, coding, they have things called bits, where it's basically electrical switches to teach kids on and off postings and things like that, and electrical current. Anyway, I'm leading the coding and robotics section. And one of the robots I'll be bringing, this will be in each one of my classes this semester, is this little baby here, the QB. And I believe I have a student here that's used a QB. Okay, Casey, you all right?
Yeah.
For what was that, 130? 110? I can't remember.
Like that. I don't know. It was
You're my one. It was 110, I think.
It was upstairs.
Yeah, it was 110.
Yeah.
And so she remoted and using it a few times. And so we'll be opening this us to any student, and I'll talk more about it, but we'll be bringing that robot. Also, another robot we'll be bringing is Duster, or some of you have seen Duster maybe on campus. He'll be at the Act Night this Wednesday coming up. I'll show you what Duster looks like. Here's Duster with probably one of the latest photos here. I don't know if you guys remember President Mike Mastriani, who just retired, right? This is his kid, his grandkids actually, came by a table where I had the Duster, and then back behind here, you might have seen this little guy before, the little MIP robot, programming him before. And so he'll be at the Maker Fair, this guy and this guy here, call them Duster 1 and 2. So anything you're interested in that, if you're interested, by the way, in helping me in the Maker Fair, it's going to be on a Thursday night, the 30th, which is during spring break for 205 district, evidently. And from 6 to 9, if you want to help, that would be awesome. I could probably use your help. And just, we're going to have a boatload of kids probably from 6 to 9. They predict like 400 or 500 kids will be there. And so like helping me, you know, show kids how to connect to the robot, do some coding with Ozobot, stuff like that. So if you're interested, let me know. I'll get you something nice to help for helping me. And so I appreciate it. A lot of stuff going on. I did put a couple things in our course conference. One new thing, actually, this connected Dester, which is this guy up here at the table. If you want to play with it, I'll click on here to show you the schedule. It's this class, which you're going to be in here, but Tuesday night, Thursday night. Tuesday night, I'm in here for Web 225 digital photography. Thursday night, I'm upstairs in PCT 110. Those are the connection times, and I'll give you the steps of how to do it. You just need a Chrome web browser with a camera, mic. I have had students actually that haven't had a camera mic, and they actually see the classroom just fine. They just, I don't see you. It does work with an iPad, or the best one I've seen it work with, though, is a laptop or desktop with Chrome and a camera. But it does work if you don't have a camera. If you don't want us to, if we don't need to see you, you can move it around and see how it works. It's pretty cool. In fact, if it's up, let me see here. I'll see if I can show you the, in fact, I think I have it in my steps here in this PDF document. This is the steps of how to connect to QB. The company keeps one live to play with. See if it's up and going. I'll show you what it looks like. It's kind of cool. But I have used it for some handicapped students and students just injured on campus, or students that have been sick and couldn't make it to campus. So must be out of the office. But there's actually a link, this one, always on demo. It's like 9 to 5 California time. It's live, so you can play with it off site. So if we're not live here, you can click on this link, and in the PDF file, there's a link to test it out and play with it. You can navigate it. Some FAQs about the robot. Can I hear what's going on, hear and view what's going on in the classroom? You can. You'll be able to listen to and watch everything. By default, your microphone will be muted, but I'll be able to see you if you connect, like in one of the other 2 classes. And it'll be positioned in front of the classroom, so you'll be able to see the board and hear me and rotate roughly about 360. It'll rotate 360, and then you can look up to the ceiling and down to the table. And I have been known to lay a hand out in front of it, and you can actually look at it and take a picture of it and a screenshot or something if you want to. How much can I move it? I've already talked about that. You can do up, down, left, right. And the way you move it in Dester is you can double click on your mouse. It'll automatically just move that location in the room. The camera will, the robot will. And the name of the robot here is QB. It stands for neck in Japanese, and that's why they call it the QB. And so, can you ask a question? You can. Since you'll be muted, you can raise your hand in front of the camera. If I see you, I'll unmute you so you can ask the question. There is an option in that to chat, but I haven't used it much, and it's easier just to talk to me. So anyway, anybody think you might play with it or maybe connect to it to try it to maybe once a semester if you're not having class on a Tuesday or Thursday? And again, you can go on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You don't have to go on the entire time. Anybody maybe try that out maybe and play with it? That'd be helpful for me. Because every time you do connect, I'm just going to shoot you an email and let me know how your experience was, any bugs or any issues, which you could definitely have. But anyway, it's not a graded activity, but it is something that I am asking for input from students. I'm going to even open it up to some folks in the public side of things to kind of help maybe preview the classes, or there's a whole bunch of different use cases for it, I'm thinking. So we could use it beyond what we're using it for now, which is students with handicaps, sick, in a hospital, work-related. We could actually use it to preview classes too, I'm thinking, on campus. So if a student wanted to preview a class or two during the beginning of a semester, they could bring in this robot into a classroom, and without much technical expertise, a teacher could actually, work with this robot, I'm thinking, pretty easily. In fact, I had it was a philosophy teacher that was non-techie that worked with this guy for about a whole semester and did fine. So Anyway, questions on Dester or Dester 2 or anything I've talked about so far? Yeah.
Is Dester for Apple company?
Do I know?
Dester? Is Dester from Apple company? Or
The Apple company. Is it made by Apple?
is it
Apple?
made by-
Yeah, it does use Apple. Is that what you're saying, an Apple app? Is that what you mean?
No, the robot, the Dester robot. Is it made by Apple? Or?
No, it's not. It's made by a company called doublerobotics.com out of San Jose, California. It's for robotics students that made Dester. And it's been, you guys have probably seen on some sitcoms, and it's been on a number of shows actually. The Double Robot has. It looks like a Segway, like an iPad on a Segway. It was on Big Bang Theory and a couple other shows. One of the shows, it was a lawyer show, they kind of made fun. They put like a paper over the top, the paper over the iPad to where as whoever was controlling it couldn't see where they were going, basically. So, because in the way the robot works, you can walk and talk to whoever's controlling it, but it'll also go down to sitting level as well. It has a telescopic arm, and you don't have to. The person in the office, the people in the office don't have to dock the robot either. The person driving it can run it into an inductive charger like I have in the house and charge itself. So, but no, it's made by Double Robotics. The price point's about $2,000. Before this one came out, there was one by Cisco for $17,000. So, but you've probably seen a number of these. If you Google telepresence robots, there's tons of these out now that are, sprouting up everywhere. So, but telepresence is big because one of the use cases in programming is the reason I'd like you guys to be involved is you can customize a lot of apps for these to be used. Like I know they're used in healthcare for doctors to visit patients right now. They're used in IT for supervisors to look over factory floors and things like that. They don't need to touch anything. They just need to monitor and move around. If you can use it for security in museums and stuff like that, just to see eyes and ears in a building. And NASA, I think, used a while back the Dester for after-hour tour of the NASA program where people could schedule time, like an hour slot, and drive Dester around and see inside NASA, which is kind of cool. So a lot of cool little use cases you could probably think of. And if you think of others, let me know. Either it be this robot or Dester, the taller one on wheels. This one's much cheaper, by the way. We can buy this one. It doesn't come with the iPad mini, but we can buy this one for about $450 a piece, which is much more reasonable. You can carry around a lot easier. So, but anyway, I would love your help any way you can. This Saturday again is the Coding with Robots. If you just go to myrbc.org, you can sign up from there. And if you don't have finances to go, it is $65 for students. Let me know. I want you to be there because what I might have you do is help me pick up handouts or something. We'll figure something out. So I don't want you to not go because you don't have the money. And I know with college students, you might not have the money, but you want to go. So don't be embarrassed or anything. Let me know because I'd rather you have one and be able to experience it and benefit from it. And you can code JavaScript with it, which is kind of cool, and make it and control with JavaScript, which goes right along with what we're teaching. So, and then Monday or Wednesday, February 1st is downtown location, the hour of code. We're having the hour of code downtown for the rest of the semester. So I've not been in that building yet. I've been in our Star, but I've not been in the. We have one of the floors evidently that has 2 or 3 computer labs and some classrooms. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think it's a nice location from what I've heard. But we're trying to get students from the downtown region. I know, like for the robotic event this Saturday, I bought personally 2 of the robots for underprivileged kids to go so they could come that maybe otherwise would not be able to come. And so I've opened that up too for people if they don't want to come or they've already been, they can sponsor a robot for underprivileged kids. So if you're interested in that or know somebody it is, I had a person say they want to buy 5 robots for some kids to go. So, some people can do that. And so not everybody can, but some can. And so I'm working with, it's actually a minister that works with the mayor and the police chief downtown, which I did not know who he was, but I met him about a month ago. And he has a mobile van that drives around downtown, and it's got 10 computers in it to teach kids computing and programming. And so I'm working with him to bust some kids in. So that's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that. It looked like everybody got week 2. I did add a new piece in there that we'll go over again. In week 2, discussion and exercise, just to make it easier for grading and also for you to kind of follow up on your code. I use the Replit environment, which is a little nicer, I think, when you're just doing strictly console logs. It's fine, works great. What I like about Replit too is I told the C++ teachers, it has other language support as well. Like you can compile native C++ apps within Replit as well, and other languages as well. So it's a good learning tool. And believe it or not, that Replit program is ran by 2 people. It is developed by 2 people and designed by 2 people. And I emailed them a couple of weeks ago, and they emailed me like in 5 seconds, like 11 o'clock at night. And so they've done a lot of work. I would probably guess more than like, if I was to guess, it'll probably be bought out by somebody eventually because it is a really nice product and they've done a lot of work on it. So anyway, we're going to be using that. I think the way it works is I have it set up to manually grade things. And so if something's not working right or something's missing, I can return it back to you and you'll see a little comment from me. I did that on a couple of you. And then you just fix it and let me know, or by when you submit it again, it'll let me know that you've submitted it. And then I can give you the 20 points for it. So I believe everybody's signed in and you've finished your first one. So hopefully you'll like it. I think it's a good tool to use, and you can do it I've even done it from my phone and tablets. A lot easier to use than the other one that we're using as far as but again, it's just doing console logs on it. So that's why I think. And I believe most everybody's turned everything in from week 2. If you've not yet turned anything in, let me know. Just have it done between now and Wednesday. It'd be great. I believe everybody has though. Week 3, your reading was in week 2 for week 3 was week 3 function or chapter 3 functions, which was this environment here. And the quote at the top is, people think computing science is an art of geniuses, but the actual reality is the opposite. Just many people doing things that build on each other like the wall of many stones. And I think that's a really good quote. I've actually never heard of this quote before until I got this on text. Programming, a good program or a good app is not because of one person generally. It's a team of people, just like the 2 people that built the Replit. They have about 10 other programmers that help them. They contract out some stuff to them. And so I know some of you are programmers already and you've done this for a while. You can probably contest to the fact that, when you're working on a project, it's a team effort. Even if the people you're working with aren't programmers per se, they can really bring light to things and shine light on bugs and issues and examples that would help the code run better, right? So don't really have to be a programmer. And so hopefully you're getting that when it comes to programming. And the more you get to programming in your life as a career, you'll definitely get it more and more that it's a team effort and you're working with a group of people, regardless if they're programmers or not. It's going to help you become a better programmer by reaching out to teams and groups and getting help. It starts out also in this chapter about talking about functions. We have used a function called alert so far, and the alert function pops up a value, whatever that value might be, whether it be a string, whether it be a variable. And functions in JavaScript, like a lot of the programming languages, are the meat and potatoes of the programming language. So functions are used a lot, and we'll be using functions a lot here on out. And so we're going to talk about tonight and practice tonight, and your homework this week will be about functions. So let me go to week 3, discussion and exercise. Functions I already looked at. I want to look at the slideshow, and then I put a couple W3 school references we're going to look at. One is going to be on random, and one is going to be on JS outputs that we can use. And then we'll do an example together in a Plunker app I put together of a function using randomization of a range of 1 and 2. And then you'll do a range of 1 and 5, 1 and 10, 1 and 20, 1 and 100. And it's used a lot in programming. And then your in class is basically another replet with functions. And all of these, by the way, I did add in the replets and also as in the assignment, some example sources that you can look at. I do recommend to try to do it on your own though first. And if you need help, you can look at it. That's what it's there for. And some of you have already played around with it to where you've tweaked it a little bit to be a little bit different than what I wanted, but you met the requirements but added more. I definitely encourage that, so you can keep doing that in both your in-class and your assignment. So I'm going to look at the Web 233 PDF first. And let me open that up here. In fact, I think I've got it on my screen already. There it is. So this was going to talk about functions, and that's all we're going to discuss this week. And basically, when you think of a function, you just think of a block of statements that you need to execute in a lot of places. And that's the beauty of a function. Once you create a function, regardless of what that function might be, we'll say the function is, we're coming up on it, by the way. For some of you like this, some of you don't like it. It's tax season, right? Anybody like tax season? If you get money back, you might like it. I always have to pay a little bit in. It's definitely in the state and some in the federal usually. But functions are, in the tax season, there's tons of functions you can imagine in regards to what app you use to do your taxes, whether you take it to somebody like H&R Block. So it'll give you a function on tax bracket that you're in, okay? So you make X amount of money gross a year. They throw it in a function and it kicks back. Here's your tax bracket, whatever percent it might be. The more you make, the more tax the Uncle Sam takes out. The less you make, the less it takes out. But functions, you put something into it and it generally returns something back to you, all right? And so we like to avoid duplicating code by copying and pasting continually. So functions helps us not to do that. So we can create a function instead of duplicating a piece of code over and over again in an app. Just create a function that is called multiple times, like tax rate. Let's talk about a calculator. A function could be in a calculator for to sum, multiply, divide, subtract, so on and so forth, all in one function. So the principle is you write code once and refer to it many times. Or in programming, we call it modular coding, or you can use it a lot of times in PHP. A lot of times it's called modular coding, but it's used that way in a lot of programming languages to where you're creating a module of whatever it might be. In this case, it's a function that can be used in many different apps. Not in your app you're currently using, but in many different apps, many different applications. So we've already seen some examples, and when you've looked in your math, but in one of the functions in math in JavaScript is math.floor, math.square root. You throw out a certain value, and it comes back with the result of that value. So it's square roots, it floors, whatever value, prompting what a number is, converting it or adding, like last week, I think I had you put in year of birth and add 10 years to it or something, doing a sum. But there are built-in functions. A math floor is a function. Math.square root is a function, but it's built in. You don't have to do anything to it except throw something at it, and it comes back with that. You can also basically create your own function. That's what we're going to do tonight and the rest of this week. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about more of a breakdown of what a function is. One common use for functions, traditional mathematical function. And so you basically have y equals fx, like the black box view there on the right. Function turns input values into output values. Where you sew something in, x, the function does whatever it's supposed to do, and then it outputs x for you. The inside of the box is the code we write for the function, whether it be random like we're going to do tonight, whether it be addition, subtraction, it could be a modulus, it could be whatever mathematical calculation you want to put in there, or whatever type of data you want to put in there to bring that calculation out. So you can wrap up your own code with functions like many programs. So literally a function can be, and you could look at it as multiple apps within an app. Okay, multiple programs within an app.
Appception?
Do I know?
Appception?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, app-centric. So it could basically many programs continually being used over and over again, and to organize your code, functions help you do that. And so, like an example, I could have a function called main, okay, which is a popular function name in programming in all programming languages. And from that function called main, I could call 10 other functions right in a row. And each function is going to do certain things, okay, that I want it to do. One function might be, the first function might get inputs from users. The second function might do the calculations of those users. The third function might display all the content. So the first function might bring in all the grades from a class for that week. The second function averages those grades out. The third function prints it out onto my display, right? That's an example. So you can give a collection of statements in what's called a name and then cause that statement to execute by referring to the name. So every function is going to have a name, just like up to this point, you've had variable names, variable name first name, variable name year, variable name whatever. Functions also need to have names, and they need to make sense, and they can't be reserved, just like all the variables that you've looked at thus far. And by the way, if you ever create a function with a reserved name, it will error out in your code and tell you can't use it, reserved in JavaScript here. But if you use, here's my logic on function names. If you use bookcase names for a function, you generally always never go wrong with accidentally even making a reserved name or using a reserved name. That makes sense? So an example would be like random number. So random number function, caps R, caps N, everything else lowercase, all shoved together. That would be the name of the function. Okay. There is a math.random, but it wouldn't conflict with that name at all. Okay. Math.random is a built-in function, but what I just mentioned would not conflict whatsoever. So when you're calling a function, once you've created it, just basically making a call to it. So you write the function once in your JS file, and then you can call it hundreds of times, thousands of times throughout your app. We say a function returns the result it computes. And so in the example of a tax earlier, if you throw out a gross amount you make every year, it's always going to come back with the exact return that you need, whatever bracket it might be in. So a function is called an expression. It evaluates to a result that the function returns. A call can appear anywhere in that expression. It can assign things. It can do arithmetic. It can do alerts. It can do conditions. It can do if statements. It can do loops, whatever it is that you need it to do. So an example here, an argument and a return. An argument is like a program. You input it for a function. Return is like the output. So an example here is that var num, comma, x equals 43. Num equals square root x. The return value coming into num is going to be from the argument from the square root that's been passed, that square root function that's been passed. And so a function call returns the value to the assigned number. In this case, it's num, is exactly what it's called. Functions are usually called using both arguments and return values both. However, they are optional. You don't have to have them. But generally, you're going to have a return of some type. Sometimes we can have an occasion to write or call a function with no arguments whatsoever. It has no arguments. So a function could just display stuff, right? You call a function and it says, hello, how you doing? In a prompt, right? Or in an alert button. Sometimes we have an occasion to write a function and no return value whatsoever. Okay, no return value whatsoever. And that would be an example like I just mentioned. call a function and all it does is alert, hello, how you doing tonight? That's it. There's no return value whatsoever, no arguments. It's all within the function. Sometimes we call a function that returns a value, but we choose to ignore it and not use it if we don't want to. Don't have to use it. So here's an example of two functions that are used. So this is function call versus function definition. So function definition would be function my program, function helper. All right. Function my program, left, right parentheses right after it. And then you'll notice the left and right bracket right after that. And everything is enclosed in the left and right bracket is the command or the code that you're designing for that function. So in this example, we have var x equals 5, var x cube equals helper x, and that's calling a function right now. It's a function call. So x is going to now be pushed to helper, which in this case is going to be 5 at this point. So the alert is the result is space end quote plus x cube, which you can concatenate that string. But you'll notice on the helper line, before it goes to the alert line, it's going to go to the helper function, num, and by the way, this right here, num, you'll notice there's no declaration or initialization. It's just a value, it's just a name. And you want that name to make sense for what the function is. Does that make sense? So you wouldn't want to put in there x. Could you put x in there? Yeah, you could definitely put x in there. It would work. You just have to remember here, this would have to be x. If you put x here, this would have to be x. But num makes sense because it's a number. Okay? So when helper goes here, what's the value of num right now? You look up here at the top. Var x equals 5, x cubed equals helper x. So what's the value of num?
X.
What number value?
5.
5, yeah. So this is 5. Var result equals num. This is an explanation leftover operator. The third, end line, and then return result. When it returns result, it's going to go back here to the alert. Actually, it's going to go back here to right there. X cubed is going to become this, where it says helper x. This right here is going to be here in x cubed. So the result is, and then whatever x cubed is. And we'll actually do a live one here in a second, a number of them. Next, function definition, same one. This breaks it down a little bit more. So we have a function definition, my program or my prog, with all the variables in there. All the this one has variables, initialized variables, and a call to another function. So you think of your program as basically a collection of multiple functions and only one lonely call to make a function begin running. An example of that lonely call would be the main function main. We'll say as you use it an example, or my main. So this is just an example I'm using for consistency. There's many ways though to write a main program or a main function. I've seen people just call it main or the main. Doesn't really matter as long as you have something that starts with. So look at this example here. The lonely first function, my main, has how many function calls is in here? In the my main on the left side. 2, yeah. So the helper and validate. When it calls the helper, you'll notice helper also calls to another one calls isInt, which just by the name of it is probably going to do what? What's it going to determine on that one? On the isInt. What do you think? Just by the name of the function, what do you think the return is for that? Or what's its function of that? Or the logic for isInt? Is it an integer, right? So is it an integer? And then the next after helper is validate. So we have to validate. So on this one has 4 functions. The main calls the helper first. Within the helper, it calls isInt. And then lastly, the validate calls. Then lastly, the validate is called. all starting from one function called myMain. So this is called what's called the first function, which you'll have a lot in programming. In VB, it's the form load, which is a form's main load function. But in JavaScript, there's no such thing as a form load. So you have to tell it what that load is going to be. So myMain could be an example of a load statement that you call from your form. So already went over this a little bit, but line by line, var x equals 5, var x cube equals helper x. The blue line there goes to the helper, brings back the result of 125, brings it back into the x cube variable, and then the alert says the result is 125. Here we change it to 9, so the result's going to be 729. Very same function though for helper. So let's look at some code examples. So if you go to week 3, I want to look at a couple references before we look at our examples and before we go on. I have 2 W3 Schools links, which I recommend W3 Schools as a reference for you. W3 Schools, the first one is a JSRef random, and then the JS output. We'll open up both of those. And when you click on those, it should open up into separate tabs for you. But the random one is basically returning a random number and 0 inclusive, 1 exclusive, meaning by default, if you just do math random, it's going to give you a 0 family and a 1 family basically on a return value. And so let's go ahead. If I click on this, try it yourself. You can do it with me, or you can just watch on the overhead. The way it works on W3 Schools, by the way, when you run these, it has embedded in the left side your HTML and JavaScript all in the same file. So it's not calling a separate .js file. And so in this example here, in the script is function, my function, document.getElementById, demo, .enter HTML equals math.random. We'll actually look at in just a second some output examples. This is one output example. Thus far in JavaScript, we've done alert, we've done console.log, and prompt. But this is another one to actually write code to the HTML file for us. And it's going to kick out the value of math.random with no arguments in there. Okay, so if I click on this try it button, notice it kicks out each time a different value. And like I said earlier, it's all going to be within the 0 family or the 1 family as far as the output by default. Okay, but if I go back here, keep going down further, I can change it to range. Say I want a range of 1 to 10. Math.random or math.floor, and then math.random times 10 plus 1. So here's my math.random we used earlier. You take math.random times 10 and then plus 1. It's going to actually be the seed value for the start and the end value. So seed value is 1 and 10 is going to be the max. So I'll go ahead and run that and try it. So 9 is the first one. 1, 9, 4, 3, 4. Now if I go ahead and change this now to play with it and say I want the value to be in between 1 and 100, I just change that value from 10 to 100, run it, and now my randomization is going to be within the range of 1 and 100 using the math.floor and the math.rand to give the values that I want, or the value range that I want. Make sense? So this one, if you're really wanting to be precise in a range randomly, this is what I recommend using, the math.floor, math.random function combined, because you can give a seed entry value and a seed exit value. a seed exit value. Make sense? Okay. The other one, as you keep reading on this, gives more examples, but that's all I want to go over tonight as far as math.random. And math.random is used a lot, and you'll use it for your assignment this week, which I believe is rolling dice, whether or rolling or flipping a coin, heads or tails. So using math.random to determine. And just to kind of give you a help on that, how many numbers do we need for that in a heads and tails scenario? Two. And that's it. And so what could our range be for that? What could be the seed minimal value for that? 1. And what could be the max? 2. There. Anything else? Any other range could we have? 0 and 1. See, we can have whatever range we want to as long as there's only 1 in between, right? And then we would test that range to see whether or not it's a heads or a tails, okay? Going back to week 3, the second one is output I threw in there because I think it's important to know at this point, even week 3, because some of you have been playing with it already a little bit. And I've had some of these and some of the examples already, is JavaScript possibilities of displaying. The console.log that we're using is great when you're learning because you're just learning how things work in JavaScript, how things function. And we just want to view it in a console.log to see that we're getting the right results, right? Like the one last week on the triangle coming from one asterisk down to 1 hashtag to 8 hashtags in a row, just to see how that works in loops. Console.log works fine. But do you use that in a real world in a live result or a live website? No, you would never use that. But for testing, you're going to use it all the time. But when you're wanting to display things in a real website scenario, web page scenario, you're going to display it in other ways. One is Windows.alert, which is a lot like the alert button we've used so far in JavaScript, except it's a native Windows DOM, and you'll learn more what that means later in the semester. Writing HTML output using document.write. This will actually replace everything in HTML at that point. So if you have a button on there and use document.write, it's going to replace any other HTML that's in there at that point, okay? And there might be cases where that's needed, right? In some cases, possibly. Then writing HTML using what's called inner HTML. This one actually, you control where it's at, just like in the example we just went over in the try it here. I'll go on this one here. So if you look on the overhead, see where it puts a placeholder called demo, an ID called demo. That's using the inner HTML. And by calling it, you can call whatever you want to, but we're calling it demo because you'll notice above the script tag, the PID equals demo. That's where the JavaScript's going to plug into, right there. So the results of the document.get element by ID demo.inner HTML X, it's going to show up in that P tag, that paragraph tag, every time. So if we named it something else, like, we named it random, we just have to make sure and name up here random as well. So I'll do that real quick just to show you what I mean. So I could name this random, I could name that random, run it, and it's showing up within the actual document itself. Now, if I take the example here of document.write, I'll replace that one with random and show you the difference here. I'm going to comment this one out. And let me do X here. And run it. You see how that replaced all the HTML on the form when I did the document.write? It replaced everything in there. And so going back to the different outputs. So I went over document.write. Windows.alert, didn't do that one. Let's play that one. Windows.alert. So I'll comment this one out, put X in there, run it. There you go. And again, much like a JavaScript alert, much like it, but it is a Windows object. And then console.log you're already familiar with. So these are some examples because we're going to be using some in our exercise right now that we're getting ready to go over. So if you look at the example on number 3 where it says see example, and then it gives you that plunker link, everybody will click on that. And let's click in the launch in editor. And again, this is going to be a practice. As soon as you do the launch in editor, you can click over here to the right. And you don't have to log in right now to do this one. You can just, I believe you should be able to play it as is without logging in. And so on this one here, you've got on the left side by default, it's going to be on the index.html. And then pretty simple on this one. It's calling to the default script.js. They're on line 6. It's week 3 practice. And then I have a button in here. Then I'm putting the value of the button, functions and random. I'm calling the JavaScript function called main. And it's a button type. I'm putting a p tag in here just to show how to use it. And so if I run this right now and click on functions and random, right now, doesn't do anything because I've not put any code in here or commented everything out on this for us, commented everything out. And so let's do one here. I'm going to check out the alert first. But before I run it again, let's go over the code here at the top. So notice I had function main is what I wanted to call from the button, if you remember. So it's calling the function main. If we go to the javascript.js, it's calling one function in the alert called random. And make sure also just to note, it is syntax, very syntax oriented. So make sure the spelling's as you spelled the original, both uppercase and lowercase. In this example here, we're building on the one I just looked at earlier we played with, which is the range of 1 to 2 is the initial one. If range is equal to 1, it's going to return a value of 1 in string, a string value. Else it's going to return a string value of 2 and put it in that alert statement. So let's see if this works. So 1 is the first one it gives me. Click it again. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get a 2 here. Might take a bit. And it's not true. It's not like true randomization sometimes, especially when you have only 2 seed values. So you can only do so much. And so I did get a 2 pop up earlier. But if I keep clicking, you'll see, it'll eventually change back to a 2. And so all I'm doing here is calling this random function, and it's using the alert function. Now I want to comment on my alert function and uncomment document.getElement that I have there. And you can do this with me as well if you want. And notice this one's actually putting the function or putting the output in the text below the button in the actual HTML. Okay, and again, demo is kicking it to the demo object ID, get on my ID, because notice I have in here demo here for the p tag. If I put demos in here and misspelled it, nothing's going to happen. Okay, not going to work, and so it's got to be the exact same spelling, and then we're good to go. Yep. Going back to JS, let's comment out my document.getElement. And I'm going to uncomment the console.log and bring up my view developer JavaScript console. And put this down at the bottom. Clear it out. And now it's kicking down at the bottom here. Right here for me. All right, there we go. That's working. Now I'm going to comment the console one out and do the last one, the document.write. It's going to overtake everything. But this time, though, in order for me to run this again, I'm going to have to stop my app and run it again, reload the web page for that button to come back. Okay, so that's really not a good way to use it for this example, but it might be for some examples or for some web usage. So what I want you to do and play around with this is you can use, I'm guessing it'd be easier to use the second one or first or second one, the alert or the document.get, either one, uncomment either one of those two lines. And all I want you to do is change the value of the range from 1 to 10, then 1 to 50, then 1 to 100. So let's do that. And when you're changing those values, in the if statement, see if you can figure out in the if statement what you need to do to just display that value. So do we need the if statement just to display whatever range was chosen? That's up to you to decide that. Right now it's specifically chosen the 1 and 2 because that was only 2 values. But if I do 1 and 10, that'd be a lot of if statements to determine. I just want you to output, by the way, whatever that value is between 1 and 10, 1 and 50, and 1 and 100. And just a little tip, you don't need the if statement for that. You don't need them. And you don't need to delete them. You can just comment them out if you want to for right now. But how are we going to display that? And how we're what value do we need to return to display that random value between 1 and 10, 1 and 50, and 1 and 100? So spend a few moments seeing if you can figure that out. But a little tip is you will not need any of the code on lines 10 through 17 for the if statement, but you will need the return line. You will need to return that a value, but what value is it you're going to return? What variable is it you're going to return, or value, either one? So see if you can figure that out. Give you a couple moments to do that before I help you out. We're getting changing the random seed value 3 times. Each time I want you to return to the web page using either the alert or the document.get element, just that value that returns only. If you need help, let me know. The more about helping, you can help each other. This is a team group effort here. Okay. You mouse doing funky things? Yeah. Oh, you know what? Mine does that sometimes. Let me see if I can fix it. Okay, let's do this. Let me show you. You get on the Apple system preferences. Let it load with the menu load. The preferences. I think when they set these up, well, I know they did. They did it on mine too. I'll show you the second one that comes up. These buttons are on the side. They have them set to go to like a mission or something. Click on mouse, see which says mission control. I want to keep it off. Turn it off. And your life will be much easier now. So let's try now to see if you can get around easier. Is that a little better? You probably already tell the difference. And if you just go, yeah, here you go to launch editor. And that's the week 3. Yeah. If you go to the, you're fine. You go to the launch editor. No, you're fine. Yeah, if you go to the JS on the left. Yeah, because the default's what, 1 and 2. You're going to change it to. Did you launch it from? Oh, you didn't launch it from the website, did you? From the Rock Valley College website. No, I took the URL. Okay, you can figure it out from here though. But you're probably going to need to go into RBC Eagle eventually. So if you want to log in, you can and access it that way. So we just go to RBC Eagle. And the home of the web browser there should be RBC Eagle. I'll just say cancel on that. There you go. That should be already up there. Tab that for you. There you go. And then just click on that. Log in. There we go. And it's week 3. And we're doing the exercise example right now. Everybody doing okay? Figuring it out? And again, we're just returning you can leave range as it is on line 9 there. And you're changing the seed value, the beginning, ending, and we need to return the value to the function. So we're returning range actually, instead of all that if statement stuff. So you won't need any of the if statement at all. Get rid of that. You just kind of until you if you want to. But you will need just delete from 9 through 14. And then you will need a return, put the return statement in there. And then range. No quotes or nothing. You're returning that value for range. And then your semicolon. And then down here, looks like you, that's fine there, but you'll need to change that from 1 to 2, from like 1 to 10. Put 1 in there, no 1. 1 needs to go there, and in place of 2, put 10. And you will need to create another function called main underneath. So underneath the console.log, you just type in function main, make sure F in function is lowercase. And then left right parentheses afterwards. Yep, and then enter, left bracket. There you go. And then you just need to type in alerts will work. Just type alert statement, and after you type the alert statement in the parentheses, you're going to type in the word random. Make sure it's spelled just like that, caps R. And it will need a semicolon on the end. Okay. And go back to your index.html and change that function name from temp to main, as I think is what you called it. All right. Make sure it's spelled right. Was it caps M on main or lowercase? I can't remember. All right, so it should be good. So we're going to run it. And main script.js, go back to your script.js one. Oh, you forgot the C function. Now let's try it. It'll automatically update it, by the way. Change it. Perfect. Good. Find it this way. Huh? Yeah, I'm in Chrome. Yeah. Oh, are you in Chrome? Or Fire? You're in Safari also. Yeah. Okay. There we go. And so this one I want you to use though, for the function main, you're going to use the alert function, so you don't need to debug function main. And I'll blow this up too where you can see a little bit better. I'm going to make this screen a little bit larger here so you guys can see it. Let me know if that's a little better back there. Is that better for you? Okay. And so if you don't already have in your JS, go ahead and type in that function name. And you are going to be using alert function for random. And there's a number of ways, number of ways you could do this. I asked you just to return the value of whatever that random value is. I think initially it was what, 1 to 10. And how can I get rid of these if statements? What's a couple ways I can get rid of these to where I can maybe come back later? What's a better way to do it, you think? If I want to come back later and edit this, just comment it out, okay? So I'll just comment out each line. That way the code's still there.
The asterisk.
What now?
Forward slash asterisk.
Yeah, you could do asterisk / yes, you definitely could. Now, to return a value, what do I need to put here to return the value for range? What'd you guys put? What do I need to put right when my cursor's blinking? To return the value of range. What? Yeah. So I'll just type in return range. And do I need a semicolon after that? Okay. So this line 9 is doing what? What's it doing right now, line 9, when the compiler hits it? Anybody tell me? Take a stab at it.
Between 1 and 10.
Yeah, find a random number between 1 and 10, and plugging it into the range variable. And then this line 10 is doing what?
It's where the range is being, the value is going to go to after it's returned.
Yep, it's returning the value of range to my alert, which that's where the function's called. So I'm calling the random function here. It's defined here. And it's being returned within the random function here. So when I run the code, and hit my functions and return button, it's going to kick back a value between 1 and 10 each time. And it'll only return that value. Next range was between 1 and 50. Do I need to change anything else besides 10? It was 1 and 10. Do I need to change anything else in my code besides the value 10 to be in between 1 and 50? No. So I'm going to change that to 50. By the way Plunker works, you don't have to keep clicking save every time, especially if it's running like mine is. We talked about that when we first rolled it out, but we were off last week. So I can click functions now, and it's going to give me, there's 46, 21, so that's working. And then the last was between 1 and 100. So I started out with 1 and 2. I did that. Then I went 1 to 10, 1 to 50, now 1 to 100. And I'll keep clicking it till it gets above at least 50. There you go. There's 57. And so anybody do theirs differently as far as how you got to your return value? Okay. So that's basically how you'd want to do it to return that one value for that range. And you might have had time maybe to play with the document.get element. That would be a little nicer as well as far as display output, because it would put it instead of a prompt, it would put it in a display below, or the text below the button, which looks a little nicer each time twice. So I click this button and the other button. I'll do that. So it's kind of nicer. So questions on functions or returning functions or randomization using Floor, because you will be needing that for your next thing we're going to do now, which is the in class, which the in class, let me go and close this out. So in the in class lab example, the replet if everybody will click on that, we'll do that together and get that done together. That way this will be finished for you. So this one, and by the way, I'm doing this on all the replets and all the just like I do for the assignment. You'll notice where it says on the right side, week 3, create coin toss function, complete the JavaScript, execute to the left, to complete, click the run button. When complete, click the submit button. In RVC Eagle, click done. And so this link here, this Dropbox link, gives some examples of how this can be done. But before we do that, let's start the skeleton of what we need, okay? The skeleton of what we need. So we know the function we're calling is going to be coin toss, console coin toss. Yeah.
I can't get to that page.
You can't get to that page?
Yeah, I'm having that same trouble I had before too.
Do I know?
I'm having that same trouble I had before too.
Okay, I can come by and help you. I will come by and help you. Yeah, let me redo that link for you guys. Thank you. I will redo that link, so hang tight. Because you will have to log into this one, so give me just a second and I will redo that link. Because I think we had that issue last week. So give me a second. While you're waiting on me, you can close out all your other tabs that you might have open on your Eagle form while I'm fixing this for you. I'm just going to give a direct link to the classroom is what I need to do. Okay, if you refresh your page there on week 3 discussions, and go down to number 4 and click on that link now, it should launch this page to where you log in. You do have to log in, but once you log in, you'll see lab 3 and 2, and we're using lab 3. Okay, lab 3 is what we're going to be doing, which looks like this. So let me know if that works. Look at me when you get that done. Hopefully that works for you once you log in, and you will be logging in. Most of you are logging into this with we're all set up and ready to go. I think everybody successfully did earlier this week. Oh, your username and password? Okay. That's all right. You can launch it up there. It's all right. As long as you get it done. So we got good there. We're good there. You got yours. Yep. And then click on lab 3. And it's going to be whatever you signed up with, which I'm guessing is going to be your S number. Or yeah, use your email. But if you can't figure it out before we meet, you can do it later. No big deal.
Yeah.
Just watch my own later. Okay. So if you don't have your password with you, just kind of look on the overhead. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a coin toss function and return. We want it to return to be either heads or tails. Okay. So if I take my cursor and put it above at the end of line 1 there and hit enter. See if I can make this a little bigger for us. So I'm going to type in a function, space, and coin toss. Make sure my coin toss is right out. Coin toss bookcase. Left right parentheses, hit enter. Left bracket, hit enter, and it'll finish up the right bracket for me. Okay. And now I can use the example we used earlier on the in-class exercise. So, but before we do that, I want to create a variable for the coin toss. Give me a variable name for a coin toss. It's either going to be, we'll use like values of 1 and 2. So Give me a variable name that makes sense for a coin toss.
Heads.
Heads. You want to do heads or tails? Variable, because it could be either one. Because I just want one variable for heads or tails. One variable for 1 or 2. Is that right? So var, we'll do heads or tails equals math dot floor math dot round. A little bit more round. And I want this to be, let's see, 2. And so 1. Make sure I got my right. Hang on just a second. Making sure I got my syntax right there on that. I forgot my left right parentheses around. I'll just paste, copy that. Save me time. All right, so that's what we need to put in there for the 1 to 2 range. So after I do that, what do I need to test? Heads or tails, it's going to be either 1 or 2. So what can I put here to test it? Somebody tell me? And again, going back to the in-class exercise example would be helpful. Or hopefully shed some light. What can I use to test this? A loop, an if statement. Can I do an if statement? If. So if I want what, heads or tails, right? Heads or tails. Now is it equal 1 or equal 1 to determine if it's equal to? Is it equal 1 or equal 1? Equal 1. So let's do equal. So it should be equals. If I can type 1. And then left bracket. And then else, another left right bracket. And I need to return, okay, so if it's 1, we'll make 1. Do you want 1 to be heads or 1 to be tails? It's up to you. Doesn't matter. Heads, there we go. So if it's 1, we're going to return. We'll put in, let's see, we'll just put in quotes, heads. And if it's tails, we'll put in quotes, return tails. All right, so let's look at this some more, see what we got, make sure we're looking good. So we created a function, coin toss. We have the variable for heads or tails that we created. We get the randomization. This one here, it's range 1 to 2 with math.random. It's actually math.floor. This is just a comment for us to look at. Next, I'm going to put a comment in here. This is going to test if 1 or 2 and return heads or tails. All right. Look good? Am I missing anything? Does it look good so far? All right, so moment of truth here. Let me go ahead and run. Oh, heads or tails is not defined. Why is that? Why is that? What did I do wrong?
you have to declare the variables?
Huh?
Do you have to declare the variables?
Yeah. Do I declare the variables?
It's not going ahead.
Reference, notice it tells me here, at coin toss 8 and 9, heads or tails. Is it spelled wrong? Oh, it's spelled wrong. See that? Got it?
Oh.
Thanks for my second eyes. See, that happens, by the way, in programming all the time. How many times I've been working on something for a while, and I have a networking guy come over and he'll say, "What's going on?" I say, "Well, I've been working on this piece of code for forever. Can't figure it out. Checked everything." I'm like, "What? That's not spelled like it is here up there." Oh, thanks. So let's try it now. There we go. Now we keep hitting run. It's going to give us either heads or tails underneath. So it's doing its job, right? So this could be done other ways, but this works for what I'm asking you to do now because we're using a console.log only to kick it out. We could use other functions like a main function to get a randomization, call it to another function, but this works. And so what I want you to do now, once you've finished that, is before I forget, up here on line 1, let's go ahead and just put in your first and last name. On line 2, we'll put in lab 3 comment. And spell it. And line 3, we'll put in today's date, which is what, Jan 23rd. Jan 23, 17 is fine. And line 4, we'll put in web 233. And just hit submit over here on the right on your replit. And let me show you some examples of other ways we could have done it. I had another way in here, by the way, I want to look at in this Dropbox link. I got to put 2 of them in here maybe. So let's see. We did it this way, it looks like, the one we just did. But I had another one too. I declared a variable up here. See if I can bring this up a little bit bigger. Let me see if I can bring it up a little larger for you to see it. Okay, so on this one, I declared 2 variables, one for heads, one for tails. Then I said if heads is greater than tails, and remember, if you don't declare anything, throw an input into random, it's going to be within a 0 family and 1 family, 0 dot whatever, 0 or yeah, 0 dot under 1 on the first dot operator, after the first operator, and then it could be either over 1. So under 1, over 1. So if heads is greater than tails, it's going to return heads, else will return tails. And so it'll be a point whatever each time. So like I say, I have a 0.6 versus a 0.7, or 0.6 versus a 0.4, something like that. There'll be more numbers past that, but you can get what I'm saying. So randomization, we could do it this way, and this would work. It could either be heads or tails and return it, and would work just fine. But we're declaring 1 variable for each option, each argument, heads or tails. It can be done that way too. So questions on that, on what we just did, which again, pretty basic, but pretty powerful. Functions. Line 7 is the function declaration and the arguments all the way through line 20. Inside of the function is the argument, or in this case, it's declaring heads or tails being either 1 or 2 using randomization and a floor. Testing that, and depending on if it's 1 or 2, depends on if it returns heads or tails. Okay? And it kicks down to a console log. We did learn some things though as we went through this. One is syntax. Originally, when I ran this, did not have the S on line 13, which caused an error, but it did, the compiler did tell us what was going on. If I can get this to go back, which is, oh, I've already submitted it, it's not gonna let me. But it did tell us on a compiler below what line it was on in the error. And that's a good about console log, it'll do that. If you don't do console log and you were to use an alert statement, it wouldn't give us that information, okay? Now Firefox will, for the most part. Chrome won't, unless you go to that developer mode and go to console.log. So console.log is always beneficial to use during the dev time of your application. Does that make sense? And then once you get everything working like you want it to, then you can display it however you want to, whether it be an alert statement, whether it be an enter statement, or whatever. So let me see here how we did here. I'm going to go to my teacher mode. I know a few of you couldn't log in, so don't worry about it. Just have it done between now and Wednesday is fine. I just want to make sure most of you were able to at least get some stuff done here. So at least get some stuff submitted. All right, cool. So we got a few of you were able to submit. That's great. So let's go back to our week 3 discussion and exercise. Those of you that finished, go ahead and submit done in here if you haven't already.
You can't.
You can't. Let me fix that. Because it has nothing, right? No submission. Online text entry is all you need. Now submit done. Thank you. Once you submit done, I'm going to go and click next. The reading, we're going to do data structures, objects, and arrays for next week. And this is looking at arrays more fully and data sets. Being able to come in and bring in an array and display them out accordingly. By, in this case here, a unique array, which is this one here, number 1 place instead of number 0 place. And then here, 1 minus 1 would be 0, which would be this place here. And so you'll learn more about that as you read. But again, arrays is very important when it comes to programming, and not only in JavaScript, but in all languages. So make sure to do your reading, and as always, definitely utilize the in-text compiler, because you can play with this and change it as well. And so I can come in here, and if I wanted to change this to 5 and run this again and just do a control enter, I can do that within the actual reading. So as you're reading it, unlike other text, you read it and you're like, well, I can see what it's doing, but I can't experience it. You can experience it with this text, so definitely use it. I know a few of you have told me you have used it. The one thing that won't work though, as you're doing, like for week 3 or chapter 3, when you try to run a function, it wouldn't work because the function didn't exist. You got to add it in there. Now, if you type the function in there, then it worked fine. And you might have noticed that as you were going through it. And so it also goes over different methods next week, which is like, what is a context of something? Like in this case here, type of uppercase, and then DOH. It's taking this DOH and converting it to uppercase in this line here, from uppercase, lowercase, lowercase to uppercase. So good stuff for week 4, looking for ahead to week 4. And then your assignment, let me go over that real quick. On this one here, you're going to do a plunker, create a plunker, put in your comments as always for your name, spring 2017, the course, date, and assignment. You're going to create a function that is named temp, takes input of temperature in Fahrenheit, converts Fahrenheit to Celsius, and returns Celsius with 2 decimal points. Display it in an alert function. So an example would be you have a button called Find Out Celsius. You input a prompt, say 75 for Fahrenheit, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It alerts back and says Celsius of Fahrenheit 75 is 23.89. And I'll show you an example of what it looks like. So I'll put in, let's say it's a nice warm summer day and it's 85. It says enter temp in Fahrenheit, and it says 85 Fahrenheit is 29.44 Celsius. Okay. And again, the codes here as always you can look at, but try to go, after you go over the reading for, for this week, which was actually last week, go over the functions for Celsius, which by the way, I have in the resources here at the top as a resource. If I click on this, it brings me to a page for converting temperatures from Celsius to Fahrenheit and vice versa. So it shows the exact logic you need to do your work. So it has a function in here for Celsius to Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit to Celsius. The one I've highlighted is the one you're going to use. You can use that one. Now you can change up the variable names if you want to, but the calculations are the same always for Fahrenheit to Celsius, Celsius to Fahrenheit. It's always going to be the same, which is basically whatever the temperature is. If you're doing Fahrenheit to Celsius, whatever the temperature is, minus 32 times 5 divided by 9 is going to give you the Celsius equivalent. As far as displaying the information, what I mean by that is going back to this, the symbols. Notice the symbols for Fahrenheit is in there, and the symbols for Celsius is in there as well. That is in the actual reading right here. So right here, you're concatenating this will give you the Fahrenheit symbol. This concatenating will give the Celsius symbol in your text, and when it does a console log. But you're going to be doing an alert statement instead of a console log. Make sense? So it explains it, use it. The other example I give you besides Fahrenheit, Celsius, Celsius, Fahrenheit is formatting numbers. You'll notice mine was set to a 2 decimal. By default, you'll have a big, ugly number. In fact, it shows you right here, maybe what it could be something like this, a big, long number. I want you to format it to 2 decimals. I put that in your instructions, by the way, 2 decimal points. So here's a reference on Stack Overflow, which, by the way, Stack Overflow, if you've had me before, it's a programming go-to for all programmers to figure code out or examples or whatever. This gives a nice way to fix any numeric value to your 2 floating type, or actually it's a fixed type. So use that example, which is just this .2 fix 2 to the variable name, and it's going to give you the 2 past the decimal point. And as always, the example for the assignment is if we go to the home and go down the bottom here, assignment examples are already in there up through week 3. So it's there for your benefit, but try to do it without looking at it first and see if you can get it. And if you want to add more to it and make it look nice, the example I give you to look at, does some different things with HTML. If you want to do that, you can definitely do that and play with it. Have some fun with it. You don't have to, but you can definitely do that. So questions about your homework for week 3 and what you have to read between now and next week, right? I would recommend getting the reading done first each week before you attempt, before you come to class the next week for sure. And so that'll help you when you're in the classroom. And then also practicing with Plunker and also with the Replit. They get tons of examples in the book. You can go in there and practice. With the Replit, they do give you an example. You can actually go into Replit. I think it's Replit language. Let me make sure that's it. Oh, that's not it. Not Replit. Plunker. You can go into Plunker and save what's called sessions, I think is what it is. Let's see here. No. No, it was Replit. I know it was. Let me go to the main web page of Replit. Let me log out. There it is. So I'll go to like JavaScript. Okay, here I'm not logged in, you'll notice. It's languages, not language. If you log out of Replit, you can actually come in here and you can save things as what's called a session. So I can come in here. If I hit save, it says no changes saved. But if I log into my login that I have, show you what I'm talking about. But you guys have been, creating Replits to share, but you can also create, I just do Replit languages is what it is. The little trick I learned. Languages, there you go. I can search for a language, which is JavaScript. Come here, and I'll just put something in there for right now, and I'll name it test1. And over here, I can go over here and save this as a session. I'm going to go and change it again. So I go to my session. There it is right there. So there's my test1. And it's a session. What's cool about this is the reason I like it is you can take this session you saved and open it up, right? Hit share. And this link here, you can give to anybody to look at and they don't have to log in. Or you yourself can put it in a module or something to look at later. That's why I like it. Everything Replit that I do, I use it for the labs, though you do have to log in to do. These you don't have to. The sessions you don't have to log into later on to play with and make changes. So that's kind of nice. So I just stumbled across that the other night. Thought I'd show it to you. And again, if you it's repl.it languages. You do need to log in to save something, but you can share it with anybody after the fact, and it'll give you a nice link to do it. So anyway, thought I'd share that with you. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions about anything, come and see me. If you want to attend the Saturday event on learning coding with robots, but you can't afford to go, pay $65. Come and see me. I will make sure and reserve one for you now. Yes?
Can you put the submit button on homework? The submit button for homework?
Yeah. Yeah, the submit button's already on the homework one. No? Should be. Let me make sure here. Oh, the in-class mean this one right here?
Nope, the other one.
No, the actual assignment.
Oh, the assignment, okay. Let me look here and check it. I will check that real quick here. Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. And I'm just having you guys do the URL on that. Thank you. Okay, done. Thank you, Christy. Appreciate it. Anything else? All right, so again, if you want to attend the Saturday event and you don't have the $65, come and see me before you leave. I definitely want you to come, even if you can't afford it. We will make it work. And you can tell other people about it as well. That would be great. You can just send them to myrec.org and they can sign up there. We are going to be, I'm sure it'll sell out. I'm about 50% there now. And I've got 3 other people that came to me before class saying they were signing up. So the reason I'm telling you all this is if you don't tell me now that you want to go, the robots will be gone by the time I probably get home. And so, so if you want to go, again, come and see me. But otherwise, we are done for the night. If you have any questions, come and see me or email me and be more glad to help you.